Welcome, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Kelly, and I'm going to be your host for today's presentation, Turning SAP into an Asset by Automating Warehouse Management and EWM. Each of our webinars addresses a component of the SAP-centric end-to-end supply chain, and with each session, we invite you to examine your own supply chain and consider how you might transform what matters. As we get started, the webinar will last approximately 30 to 45 minutes, followed by a time for questions at the end. Please capture your questions in the question and chat section. At this point in time, I would like to introduce you to today's speaker, Steve Cannell. Steve is an integration advisor at Reveal with 10+ years of supply chain and warehousing experience with a bachelor's and MBA in operations management and supply chain. Steve has led several domestic and global supply chain projects over a variety of industries and specializes in warehouse design, operations, optimizations, moves, and expansions. With that, I would like to turn the presentation over to Steve, and I'll return at the conclusion for the questions and answer session. As a reminder, please feel free to ask questions throughout the presentation using the question or chat function in the navigation panel. Steve, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you, Kelly. Hello, my name is Stephen Kinnell. Today we'll be talking about SAP's suite of warehouse management and extended warehouse management, or EWM, and really some of the things that can help turn your WMS or warehouse management system into an asset and/or can prepare you for a transition from WM into EWM. So today's agenda, what we'll do is we'll really understand the intent of in the value behind WM and ECC. We'll touch on some things that could be done now to help turn SAP WM into an asset. We'll also in there go through a few T codes and tools and reports that can help drive some efficiencies in your warehouse space. We'll then touch on what EWM is and some of the differences between WM and highlight some of the features within EWM, and then talk about some of the things that can help prepare now for that transition from WM to EWM. Okay, before we get started in there, we're going to do a quick poll. So Kelly's going to jump back and we are going to do a poll in here.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and get this launched. What warehouse management system tool are you using currently? We're going to take just a few minutes for you guys to go ahead and get your answers in. And just a few more seconds. Looks like a few more people are answering. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and let's take a look at these results. All right, Stephen, there you go. We have 83% warehouse management. We have 10% using extended warehouse management, and 7% are using another WMS tool.
Excellent. Okay, and those results are excellent in exactly what we're going to cover. So most cases are going to be using WM and ECC. There's over 7,000 active clients in WM ECC, right? And then we'll talk about kind of EWM. So those that have already made the jump, you'll already see some of those benefits, but kudos to you. So really, first thing I want to talk about is the actual value of warehouse management and what the intent is. So WM is SAP's warehouse management system. It's been around, right, for many, many years. Like I said, it has 7,000 customers, and its primary function is to manage stock and really cover all transactions within the warehouse space. So a few things: that there's a storage location. So differences from a materials management storage location and the actual warehouse or WM, there's a few key differences here. So most organizations, or some organizations, can actually use a storage location, or SLOC as we call it, to manage stock, and that is completely fine. These organizations that use SLOCs for managing stock, they're typically lower in volume or smaller size, and really you can get away with it. With an SLOC though, you know the material is somewhere in the building, but it doesn't have the actual pinpoint accuracy of where that material is. So in that picture there, you just know that material 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is in that building. So let's say it's in that storage location, but within there, good luck. It doesn't give you that next layer down. In addition, there's no automation. So inventory movements in and out, or SLOC to SLOC transfers, or stows coming in and out. So you don't have that layer and that granularity in which you get in WM. So a warehouse, right, you get that actual pinpoint accuracy of where that material is being located. You have real-time traceability and tracking from transfer orders, right? Your TOs are going to show exactly what's moving, where, when, why, who moved it, etc., down to the granular detail of the storage bin. So you can pinpoint where your inventory is, where it's moving at all times. So you have that additional layer of where it is. And from an inventory accuracy perspective, you have cycle counting, or you have the actual inventory mechanisms down to that storage bin level. So very big differences from your storage location versus the pinpoint accuracy of WM. So with that too, there's many processes that could be automated because you have the granularity of storage type, which sits within storage bins. You can automate different inbound and outbound, or picking and put away processes to help that material flow. So everything's going to be about automation within WM. Okay, so also the integration, right? Integration is going to be key in WM, and it speaks and it works with all the different suites to run your business. So the first one being inventory management, or what we just talked about, the SLOC. So it integrates with purchasing orders, or you're procuring to that plant SLOC combination that is linked to a warehouse. And then therefore your buyers and planners can actually procure straight into the warehouse. And it's integrated because you have your, right, when you accept the goods into the warehouse, you're doing a goods receipt, where you're taking that inventory, or you're accepting those goods into your warehouse straight from your materials management or MM perspective. The second integration, which it has, is going to be your sales and distribution. So it has seamless integration with sales orders. You're picking the deliveries, you're picking to outbound deliveries, where the inventory is all sitting within WM. So it's constantly interacting through TOs, and you're getting that real-time data. Okay, so your radio frequency. So everything in WM, that's one of the beauties and why people switch to it, is you want, right, there's efficiency gains in having a handheld unit where you can transact on the fly and get that real-time confirmation and pics, etc., of your goods. And also have the capability of barcoding integrated with voice picking and check digits. So confirming that you are at that correct location in order to complete that pick. It's integrated with QM. So if you have a material that has inspection needs, or is manufactured, and you need to do an audit before taking those goods into your warehouse, it's integrated with a QM process just to ensure that you have that accuracy and everything is complete, and that it says that everything is accounted for. And finally, production planning. So warehouse management is fully integrated with production planning and material staging. So that could be through control cycles, production supply areas, and really you have so many different material staging types in order for WM to stage materials for production. So that could be, and there's numerous ways through pick part, could be a Kanban style. There's 5 different types of picking and staging for that WM to stage for production. And then the whole consumption aspect of it, where you're now taking the goods from the warehouse and consuming it onto that production. So really, that is the intent of WM. It's the granularity, it's the integration. It's more than just the material is within this building, because you have the real-time transactions and the integration of the other modules within. Okay, so then we talked about really the intent, high-level capability of WM. We're going to start getting into some of the standard T codes and tools that can help automate the processes and help WM and turn WM to an asset for your organization now. So the first thing that we love to preach at Reveal is going to be housekeeping. Housekeeping. In SAP, there's a standard tool called the Warehouse Activity Monitor, or LL01. This is the now business, and it's really the best thing to do to maintain supply chain service levels within your warehouse aspect. So the way it works is you have tasks, warehouse TOs, and tasks in order to complete your business. You are allowing time, and that is the key thing. There's a time allotment behind all these. If it exceeds that threshold, so let's say 2 hours, for example, it ends up in the Warehouse Activity Monitor, or here. Whereas supervisors or managers can see kind of what's late. So if it ends up here, you're affecting an end user, or there's a supply chain disruption. So really, you don't want to have things end up here. So here's just a quick example. That's in 4 materials are sitting in an interim that have exceeded a threshold. If a material is in an interim storage location, so let's say you just receive this in because it's a 902, these need to be put away. It's an interim. It's not intended for storing that material. So it's exceeded there. We need to investigate and see where these materials are, why they're still kind of in that inbound staging area. I would argue, though, that the biggest bang for the buck and cleaning up your tool is going to be, in a housekeeping perspective, is to align your business behaviors with your business processes. And that's all going to be from your master data. Perhaps your data is always late or missing. It ends up on this report because the rules contradict the system. The rules, your business rules, need to match and reflect your business behavior. So in WM, that could be your material master is not reflecting the structure and how it's set up, or it's not working the way it's intended to. So the system's right, it's intended to work seamlessly in a fashion. So therefore, because the rules don't align with behavior, it's having a lot of manual decisions. So it's resulting in your warehouse folks on the floor who are, maybe it's sitting on the warehouse side, maybe these 4 materials are in there because the rules don't align with behavior. So that's going to be the key thing, is knowing how the system is set up, the capabilities of certain storage types, the put away processes, and having them align. Because if it ends up here, you're playing firefighter and someone's really fixing a product every single time. But the only way to fix that is to get to the root cause and to align your master data to the warehouse structure. So this is a great tool in order to manage kind of the database business in the warehouse. Okay, there's other tools specifically where the Warehouse Activity Monitor is more of a universal tool. There's industry or specific tools that can help identify critical elements that are also affecting supply chain service levels. So if you're looking, or if you're shelf life managed or have specific expiration dates, LX27 or the control circle shelf life control list is a great tool to help locate exactly where those materials are that are expired or going to be soon, and where action needs to be taken before they exceed that shelf life. In addition, WM has specific stock placement and stock removal strategies to help with this process. So you can have a stock removal process by shelf life, where it's always going to pick that latest shelf life first before it expires. If you are a storage type of a fixed bin strategy, or if you have fixed bins specifically, LX29 is a great tool to assist with that. Fixed bins are excellent if they are managed properly. With fixed bins comes maintenance, right? You have to have a min max, there's replenishments that come along with it, but LX29 is going to be a tool to really help assist with that process and to show you if there's other materials actually located in that fixed bin which are assigned to another material. So it's a great tool to help clean up and alleviate some of those supply chain disruptions. And then finally, it's going to be cycle counts. So we talked about the granularity down to the storage bin. LX22 is going to be your high level of what's been counted for the year, what's still pending, who counted it, what the case is within that. So it gives you that granularity of your cycle counts down to the storage bin level. Okay, but we want to analyze the reality of the tool. And now that we're getting some of the things and past some of the housekeeping things and the house is in order, it's really time to learn where and why that happened. So did we have sufficient capacity? Did we plan accordingly? Did we plan for that spike in a particular material or have the capacity in a certain storage type? But within WM, there's great standard tools that are embedded in the system. So this first one's going to be MCLD, which is a standard logistics information or LAS report, and it's a data analysis tool. You have the ability to break down material flow into buckets. You can see your most frequent moved materials, and you have a variety of selection criteria. So you can break down by storage type, material type. You can look at a material in a particular month or in a manner of segregating it by month. So you could produce time series graphs straight from SAP, as you can see here. And this data really should always be used to drive strategic decisions. So you can use this for slotting. You can use this for assigning fixed bins to a particular material, or even find a seasonality of a material. So if a material was only used in the month of August, you could see it here, and you could see it kind of tapering off. But all this information is really to help you drive strategic decisions within your warehouse. And then also a great thing about this tool, let's say you want to take some of this data and use it for slotting. It shows you time series too of the time that it took within a given period. So let's say you identified one of your fastest moving materials and you moved it to a more optimal location. Well, back in January, it took, I don't know, let's say 30 minutes to complete that process from TR to TO close, or TO open to TO close. You can actually see how long that took in minutes after your move. So did it take you faster to complete the process? You have a capability right from this MCLD report. And then another great tool is going to be LX04. It's going to be your warehouse capacity. Did you have the capacity within your storage type, and how many storage bins? So when I was running a warehouse, this is one of the first tools or T codes that I would look at daily. I would see the health of my bins, and really it's a powerful tool. It shows you, if you even click on the storage type, and you can get the details of everything about that storage type, what the stock placement indicator is, what the stock removal indicator is. So really you could see what that is about, and then it tells a story of why. So if you've it shows you a percentage of how many that you have available, and then if you have a fixed bin strategy, let's say for example, and you're fully occupied in that you're 100% or near capacity, what's the effect? What's the effect of the other storage bins? Where will that material go next? if you are fully utilized or over capacity in a particular storage type. So it's a powerful tool, again, that you can look at, just a quick health check of your internal capacity. There's a lot of things too, right, after we take a look and analyze the data to group and prioritize, but particularly from an inbound perspective and material flow. So utilizing storage sections and storage bin types, these are standard structure tools within WM, and they can be used in a variety of ways to prioritize really your put away process or inbound process. So here we have some examples of storage sections. Storage sections, as you may or may not know, give you really great control of where you want to place your material specifically within a storage or a set of storage bins. So if you want the material grouped or placed, this can be allocated from, you can split storage sections which are assigned at a bin and material level for velocity purposes. You can have storage sections to group bins for like materials. So if it's the same product type and you want them to go to a specific part of your aisle, you can have that there, or even storage limit purposes. So if you don't have the capacity here, or just it gives you the control for put away aspect where you just match, right, for all of your storage bins within that range, you assign it the same one to a material, so that way your material is always going to that storage section first. If it's not available, if there's not an available bin for put away in that particular storage section, it looks at a sequence of where the next storage section it could put the material. But the point being here is there's ways to automate the inbound process by grouping and prioritizing there. And then in addition to storage bin types, so it's another way to automate kind of your inbound flow, especially if you're handling different or multiple units of measure or case pick. This works very well in a case pick environment where you can, depending on what you receive in, it could be allocated to a particular bin size or storage bin. Could be a bin box case, could be the floor stack, but really you're getting the control because your structure, your storage bin type is set at the storage bin, and you just match it to your material master. So if it's finding, in the example here, a Y1 and your material has a Y1, it's going to first look for anything that is in those yellow Y1 bins. If there's not an available Y1 bin there, where's the next one it could fit? So there's a sequence. It would look at Y2 next if it can't fit in Y1 in this case. So really identifying your materials, and then you could, again, section, group, and prioritize them in different ways for strategic purposes. Okay, there's also tools you could do on the outbound side. So you can group and prioritize materials from the pick path. SAP has, this is all standard process, it has the ability to set a pick path or release sequence, and it's a great way for gaining efficiencies and preventing bottlenecks. So you can have your pick path serpentine by storage type. So if you're releasing orders, take that green star, that's where the release is going to start, and it will serpentine and it'll release all of your orders in that manner. So you, no matter what, can release a wave, release work, and it will serpentine. You can go straight down. It is completely customizable of how you release the work. Also, picking areas. So implementing picking areas, another standard tool, and it works very similar to storage sections. Just the intention is you're grouping bins for outbound or picking purposes. It groups them together and for whatever strategic purposes. So you can group by aisles. So take this example here, you're seeing the pick path again. So you could assign every single bin and from aisle 40 to 43 all in one pick area. So could have hundreds of storage bins within those 3 aisles. But then you can assign that one picking area to a particular warehouse associate to go pick those. So they would pick all those within that pick area. Then for aisles, let's say 44 to 45, a different pick area. So you could go and allocate different patches by aisle to different pickers, and it will all follow that pick path too as well. So you can also allocate picking areas for strategic purposes such as unique handling of materials. So if you take the pictures on the right, you can assign those bins, especially the ones on the top, or you might need a piece of unique piece of material handling equipment in order to pull that down, like a reach truck, a clamp truck, whatever the case may be, where your normal picks don't require that. Could be fragile materials. If you have fragile materials that always get broken, or light bulbs, well, you could take, and if you know where that bin is for that particular material, assign it and give all of your fragile materials based on picking area to particular associates. So that way they're handling, they know ahead of time that they have the proper tools and handling in order to make those picks. So there's many ways and things that you could do to group and prioritize and really bring out the efficiencies from the outbound perspective as well. Okay, so now that we talked about WM, just a lot of the tools and very high level, some quick things that could be done, but really it comes back to the rules and the structure. It's all about getting your business rules to align with the behavior, but there's many ways, in different ways to handle it based on your business needs. So let's talk about this WM or EWM thing and what it is, what's coming, what it's about, so and how it's different from WM. Okay, so EWM can do all things that ECC can do. It's key to note that EWM will be replacing WM. The date was originally set for 2025, but it was recently scaled back to 2030, which gives some additional buffer time for working that transition over. It's key to note that it is EWM Basic is embedded in SAP's S/4HANA. There's a variety of functionality there. One thing to note, WM can still be used in S/4HANA, but that requires compatibility pack, and that compatibility pack also expires at that 2030 date. So no matter what, past 2030, you really have to transition to EWM. So the big point here is, yes, EWM is the new WM, and it will be replacing it. And that given point where everyone will need to transition over is that 2030 date. So again, you could have, if you're running S/4HANA right now, you still could be using WM, but only up until that 2030 date, where you will have to actually transition to EWM. But it all right. The beauty of EWM is things that we'll cover in these next few slides. So when it comes to EWM, you have two selection options. You have EWM Basic and then EWM Advanced. So extended warehouse management, that's what the E stands for. The Basic is embedded with S/4HANA, and it's really going to be the closest thing at which you have to WM on ECC now. Although there's so many more features that come with the Basic EWM on S/4HANA. EWM Advanced comes with amazing features and options that really weren't capable within WM. So some things in particular, you have a labor management that come with Advanced, slotting that's built in. So EWM will optimally find and restructure, right? We talked about using the MCLD reports to identify velocity. Well, if you have slotting turned on in EWM Advanced, SAP, it works in AI technology. It will automatically place materials and create tasks to a more optimal location based on velocity data or whatever data that you put in, but it gets smarter over time. It realizes and learns the trends and reslots the materials for you. It has kitting capability built in, value-added services or vast services built into warehouse tasks. So if you need to apply additional bags or additional packaging, right? That could be a warehouse task built into a value-added service. So there's so many features that come into advanced opposed to EWM basic, but that's not to say that EWM basic does not. EWM basic has all the capabilities of, you have the S4HANA material integration, has resource management. That's a big thing that WM currently does not have. So you have warehouse tasks and warehouse orders. Well, in WM, you just have this queue of open tasks that need to be done, but in EWM, you assign resources or users to these tasks and orders to complete the work. So you know who's out there, what users you have, and you know the work that's out there, and you just assign these resources to the work, which is fantastic. The RF capability is fully integrated. So the RF, whereas in WM, it's very transactional. It was you assign the work, you push the work to the guns, to the RF guns or the queue, and you really use these to confirm transactions. EWM, the capability in RF, is meant for you to transact and not leave that RF unit. So for example, if I'm picking a material and I'm required to pick 5 and there's only 3 at the location, and it requires a replenishment. Well, in a WM environment, you would have to go back to a GUI or to the office or to find a terminal and complete that replenishment. Well, EWM, you can do it all straight from your RF gun. So you could switch tasks, go complete that replenishment, jump back to your task for picking, and continue your pick. So really, it's intended to not leave that gun and to do everything that you can. So there's a lot of great functionality that you get just from basic as well. So it's key to note too, the last thing with advanced, it does come with an additional license fee. So there's a lot of great tools, and I'm not touching on every single one, just some of the highlights, but right, with that additional license fee, it's really worthwhile to explore if you're going to utilize all these additional functions in order to make that switch. So, right, you just want to ensure that you're going to utilize those additional functions and really fully commit to them before making that decision for advanced versus basic. So SAPs really strive to make EWM suit all industries and utilize WM or a WMS system to integrate every single process end to end within straight from EWM. So one thing that SAP has really preached is end to end for EWM. They want to, and they've realized, right, that all the different industries require, and this is what they've seen from the past from learning from WM, that these tasks are very typical in these types of industries. So throughout any given industry, these are very, very common in things that are all incorporated now straight in EWM. EWM also has some basic guidelines and best practices to follow for certain warehouses. So there's not just one blanket warehouse. There's guides for specific warehouses and the intention of them. So if you have a production warehouse, right, it realizes that it's handled different than a distribution center warehouse. There's different rules and pre-baked tools and strategies when implementing EWM for your specific warehouses. The integration, right? We talked about this in WM. Well, in EWM, it just, the strengths, right? It taps in and the integration expands. So you still have your sales, your production, but really you have the global trade services and batch traceability. That's really a big one. I talked about the RFID integration, fully integrated, but right, it works. It's meant EWM to go end to end and handle a whole lot more than in your WM environment. One thing we really do a lot of work at Reveal here is working in the production element and really the production aspect, or that WMPP integration. One thing EWM has really added is so many more aspects and layers to that WMPP. which is very exciting. So SAP and EWM continue to release updates, and every single one that I've seen incorporates additional features for this WMPP integration. So don't want to touch on everything here, but it is really from the consumption aspect to the RF. Really, the warehouse has control now of executing and issuing the production aspect, the consumptions. You can do everything straight from your handheld device. So the WMPP aspect, again, I can't say enough great things of really where this is already gone and where it continues to go. Then the analytical tools. So EWM is fully integrated with Fiori. Fiori is extremely user-friendly, whereas so WM, I think everyone gets used to kind of that ECC environment, the menu, the GUI. So you have the work in front of you rather than you having to go and find it in your ECC environment. So it's presented in a tile form at Fiori, as I'm sure a lot of you have seen, but it's in a very, the workflow is very user-friendly, where it shows you your warehouse tasks or all of your work in sequence. So you don't have to remember the menu path or specific T code or where to go for each process. So they've really done such a great way of optimizing the flow of the tiles and the tasks. And another tool in EWM is going to be your warehouse monitor. So we talked about the warehouse activity monitor in WM, where that is going to be your now business or what is affecting your supply chain services. So that's kind of after the fact. Your warehouse monitor is intended to be your one-stop shop, where a supervisor or a warehouse manager really manages everything from your warehouse and dictates what's out there, all of your resources, all of your work, but it's your one-stop shop of managing all things within your warehouse. Another great tool is the shipping cockpit. Down there is SAP in EWM. They talk about the end-to-end, but one of the things in which they did is they took a lot of the SD or sales and distribution tasks, so your deliveries in ECC, where those were a lot of sales related, and they've now transitioned them or reallocated them into EWM, which is probably where they should have been in the first place in the warehouse aspect. But within your shipping cockpit, and this is integrated with transportation side of SAP as well, you have yard management. And there's so many capabilities of there, so you can have certain relay points. Yes, your truck is scheduled to be here at this point. It's at the gate. Okay, now it's at the gate. You can allocate a dock door or a door of which it goes into. Then you can actually release the picks, release the orders. So the shipping cockpit is such a great, powerful tool to show you where your deliveries are and gives you that control of transportation units. There's so much functionality within the shipping and delivery side within EWM. As I briefly touch on this, there's different versions of EWM. We're now in 1909, but as we go through these SAP releases and just continues to innovate, continues to make their processes better. So with each release, there's so much more functionality and things that come with it. So a lot of great things that come, additional features already out there, and just it gets better and better with each release. So what are some of the things that we could do to help prepare for this migration from WM to EWM? The first thing is going to be you understand your organizational goals and really what you want to do. So the easiest way is good to be to do your research or select a experienced partner like Reveal, discuss options of what WM basic versus advanced means, and kind of working with your environments and your business and aligning it to your system. So if you like a specific feature in EWM and you want to migrate later, you can enable that function later. But at a high level, you really want to dive in, begin to map out kind of who you want to be, so to speak, but to dive in and see kind of these basic versus advanced features, but this is going to be step one, is kind of to know what's out there and what might work best for your business environment. To know what functionality carries over. So your basic structure is still there. Your storage types are there, sections, storage bin types, all the way down to storage bins. There's additional features now of these things. So yes, they are storage types still remain the same, but now there's additional control. There's storage type control, whereas before you would configure a storage type to act in a certain manner. But the additional layers now in EWM are so much more granular. You have so many more options in there. So yes, it absolutely carries over, but it's still there's different aspects of what to do. But right, so going backwards, if you know that you like a feature from EWM Advanced and you're currently have a certain storage type and it's not acting to the way in which you may want it to in EWM, you can start doing things now, taking actions now, cleaning up storage sections or adding storage sections, because that's all going to migrate over. And there's tools, SAP has a tool to help migrate your bins, your types, your storage sections, but the work you do now is going to pay tenfolds later in this whole migration process. But the point being, you start the work now and what can actually migrate. So clean that data up. Also the new functionality. So what is different? TOs, transfer orders, transfer requirements, they go away in EWM. There's warehouse orders and warehouse tasks that replace it. So they act in a very similar way, different terminology, but the point being there's different layers to it. Activity areas are interim or transition areas past your storage sections before they get to your storage bins. So you assign work to activity areas and work centers. You can assign your value added services to work centers. So that's where you actually, your warehouse workers perform the work. I know it's in the production aspect of ECC, work centers were, but now it's introduced in the WM aspect. You have your resources, your users. Again, that's new functionality in your resource management. Your Fiori tiles, analytics, in which we touched on. There's so many more additional layers to it. Then in advance, you get the labor management, the slotting, the VAS, all the additional features too, which are new. So I'd start looking into, if that's the road you want to go down, what that means and really how that will change your current landscape. And then really to begin the housekeeping now. We can't preach the housekeeping enough, but get the house in order now in order to transition, to make that whole migration as seamless as possible. Of course, there's going to be things that are caught, but SAP has tools in order to help this process. But if you know you want to change a particular storage type or section or the way that your current WM environment acts based on its rules and structures, do so now and start resetting and cleaning up now in preparation for that transition. Okay, so really we talked about what WM is, the whole intention, some quick things that could be done, some of the core features of EWM, basic versus advanced, and just really some things that we could begin now for that transition. So to wrap up, WM, right? It's integrated now. It's waiting. There's a lot of hidden potential within WM, things that could be done depending on your environment. You can configure storage types in a particular way. You can add storage types, storage sections, but it's such a powerful tool, and there's so many different options that many just don't know about. I mean, when I was running warehouses, I wish I knew so many more of the tools that I know now. Back then, but there's so much potential now in WM, yet alone EWM. Housekeeping, right? The biggest thing, clean the data. Garbage in is garbage out. You have to have clean master data that align with your structure. So you want to clean the house and make sure that your rules align with the behavior. And then to tap into those standard tools, such as the warehouse activity monitor, some of those logistics information systems. So there's a lot of great tools out there utilizing your sections in the proper way, and some of the best practice tools in which SAP was intended to that place there in the first place, really utilizing those tools. EWM is awesome. It's endless. It's everything. I put for you Lord of the Rings fans out there, right? It's very powerful. Smeagol just wanted the ring. He wanted the power, and he got it. So EWM has all those things. It's a very powerful tool. Could be dangerous with all the power. So it's key to know the tools, and it's key to learn all the capability out there. There's a lot of great things in both suites, basic and advanced, just depending on your business needs. And then the whole migration, right? Begin to carve the path and know who you want to be, which path you want to go down. So know the features of basic and advanced and start shaping and forming that path right now. So cleaning up your data and formulating that, start educating on the features and when and preparing for that transition of what date you want to go, and then work backwards of cleaning all that data for that transition. Okay, so that is it. So thank you very much. We have a few Q&A, some questions and answers.
Thanks, Steve. And yes, we have actually quite a few questions. I'm hoping that we can get them all answered. The first question I have is RF and EWM supported through Fiori apps?
So RF is supported in Fiori apps, also through iPad. So you have Fiori tiles, and you can literally walk around with an iPad in your Fiori, and it's fully integrated with Fiori tiles.
Okay. Our next question is, where does centralized EMW standalone on S4HANA stack come into the picture related to S standard embedded
Sorry.
EMW and advanced EWM?
Can you, sorry, Kelly, can you repeat that question one more time? I know it was a little long one, but I'll try to.
Yeah, it's okay. Where does decentralized EWM standalone on S4HANA stack come into the picture related to standard embedded EWM and advanced EWM?
Kelly, whoever, so with that one, I'll get back to that user. There's a little more research I'll probably need to do on that one to clarify that question. So I certainly will answer that question to whoever asked it. I just want to.
Okay. Yeah, we can go ahead and get back to you on that. And then we have EWM connects to multiple SAP systems. How does EWM master data overlap?
So EWM, there's so much more layers to that your EWM master data, and that's a great question. You have additional features. Everything is within your material master. For example, you have packaging data, which you can apply orientation. So within your WM aspect of you have warehouse manager, your WM tabs, you have a few WM tabs of 1 and 2. The specs or the actual master data, again, same things apply to your structure, but the layers and additional features that you get, even from the material master perspective, straight from S4HANA, fully integrate with your EWM, but it all aligns to the structure. So yes, to answer the question, you get all the additional features from S4HANA, all the clarity, all the one-stop shop, I should say, from your material master, and it trickles down to your WM. So you get to utilize all of the material master features in S/4HANA, but they all apply directly to EWM.
All right, our last question for today. Can I interface one EWM warehouse with multiple SAP systems?
Sorry, can I, what
Yeah.
was the last part?
Can I interface one EWM warehouse with multiple SAP systems?
Multiple SAP systems. So if it's storage, so that one again, I'd like to follow up with that person because I'd like to clarify what the SAP systems means. So one warehouse with different suites. So that question again, I'll follow up because I really want to provide the best answer for that, but I just want to clarify that question in more detail.
Okay. Well, that is all the questions that we have for today. So thank you, Steve. And we'd also like to invite you to view our 25-minute pre-recorded strategies to help supply chains tackle some of the struggles we're seeing caused by the current pandemic. And you can find these on our website in the navigation under C19, Supply Chain Relief. And that also you can find there our pro bono assistance we're offering to all supply chains that have been affected. And then we also are offering on our website under the resources tab all our previously recorded webinars and other educational content, white papers, blogs, and other helpful publications. So make sure to check those out. And join us then for our next webinar, and that's going to be on Wednesday, May 20th, turning SAP into an asset by improving procurement spend and as a whole. And this is going to be presented by David Morin. And then we'll make sure you get that information in advance and hope you can attend. So have a great day and stay safe, everyone. Thank you.